afternoon, everyone who's joined, and we are going to start a conversation about the Contra Costa Family Justice Center. This is a topic that is very close to my heart. I have over the years worked with several different organizations, but nothing like the Family Justice Center, which brings everything under one umbrella. I am Aparna Madireddi, Chair of the Open Space Advisory Committee for the City of San Ramon. I am also the District 2 Rep for Contra Costa County's Census 2020 Steering Committee. And I may sound like a broken record at this time, but please fill out your census questionnaire if you haven't already done that. San Ramon is one of the District 2 cities that is, I believe, close to 60% self-response. All the other District 2 cities are well above the 60%, so we really need to get people to self-respond quickly. I have a very special guest today, and that is Susun Kim, who is the Executive Director of the Contra Costa Family Justice Center. I have known Susun for a little over 2 years, and I was thoroughly impressed by the work she's doing and what she has accomplished over the years since she joined Family Justice Center. And I think that year was 2014, Susun, am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So I am not going to take up any more time. I'm going to let you do your presentation because this is a very different kind of topic. There are confidentiality issues, so we're going to keep our questions general. This is being recorded. It will be posted for people to use as a resource moving forward. So over to you, Susan. Thank you.
Thank you, Aparna, so much for your partnership over the years and for this opportunity to share information about our work. Especially right now in 2020, we are living in this really surreal time with COVID-19 pandemic. And I do worry about our clients, including children and elders who are living in very closed quarters, experiencing abuse and violence. So this is really an important moment in our time. And I feel like COVID-19 is bringing out the best and the worst of us. And I'm really hoping that this presentation could bring some light into really these difficult times that a lot of us and all of us are experiencing. So thank you for this opportunity. As Aparna said, I'm the Executive Director of the Contra Costa Family Justice Center. There are 3 centers in our community. One in Richmond that was started in 2011, and the second one in Concord that started in 2015 in Todos Santos Plaza. And you could see the picture of Todos Santos Plaza there. And then we finally opened our 3rd Family Justice Center in Antioch in September 2019. And the Family Justice Center really is a one-stop center for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, elder abuse, child abuse, and human trafficking. And all of these types of violence are very difficult for really anyone, but especially if you are experiencing these types of violence and you don't speak English, or if you're an immigrant, if you are low income or have a disability, or have young children and no access to private transportation, you could imagine how really insurmountable some of the barriers would be. Also, without the Family Justice Center that brings all different partners together, anyone experiencing these types of violence would have to travel to many different locations. For instance, the family court in our county is in Martinez. And if you are seeking child support, you have to go to another office in Martinez. Or if you want to get a police report, you would have to know how to get it through your local law enforcement agency. So it is very complicated and very difficult to access services. So really the idea is that we bring all different partners together under one roof so that any victim experiencing interpersonal violence can access services under one roof. So before I go into our model or how we deliver our services, I just want to kind of put what I'm talking about in the context, in our society. Like, why do I talk about domestic violence? Why do we care about domestic violence? Because what we know is that there has been a lot of research and data collection that has been done in the area of domestic violence. What we know nationally is that 1 in 4 women in our lifetime will have experienced domestic violence, some sort of violence by an intimate partner, someone in a dating relationship. 1 in 7 men will have experienced domestic violence. And what's also alarming that we should know is that when we hear about mass shooting cases, unfortunately, there are a lot of guns in our community, and there have been mass shootings in many different parts of the world. We know that more than half of those mass shooting cases involve domestic violence or family violence. So even though, let's say there's a shooter out there, a gunman out there who's going to the school to shoot, so we think of that as school shooting. What we know is that in a lot of those cases, there was domestic violence or family violence, which is alarming and which is concerning. And this is something that we should know and we should think about. Sexual assault. 1 out of 6 women are victims of rape or attempted rape in her lifetime. 1 in 33 men are victims of rape. And another disturbing statistic that I need to share with you is that 33% of rape victims have contemplated suicide, and 13% have attempted suicide. So sexual assault really impacts its victims in a very, very challenging and difficult and insidious way. So yes, I know this is a rough topic, so we're gonna breathe. Child abuse. We also see incidents of child abuse in our community. And whenever you suspect any kind of child abuse, we would encourage you to contact CFS, Children and Family Services in Contra Costa County. And in other areas, it's called CPS, Child Protective Services. And it is their job to receive reports of suspected child abuse and investigate. So I would really encourage all of us to know about CPS reports. And what we know about child abuse is that boys who witness domestic violence are twice as likely to abuse their partners and children when they become men, which should not really be a surprise to us, because that's how we know about human social learning, that when you grow up watching it and that type of behavior, violent behavior, becomes normalized. And unfortunately, that's what they tend to resort to, violence. So that should be really a concern to all of us, really looking at not just our children, but specifically boys. So these statistics about boys who witness domestic violence as children should really, make us think about how we could really support our children and our boys in particular. And elder abuse. Let's not forget, we have a lot of seniors who live in our community. And what we know is that about 2/3 of our elder abuse victims are female, because women tend to live longer. And unfortunately, more than half of elder abuse perpetrators are family members. So often it's their grandchildren or nephew or nieces or even their own children who take advantage of them. And most common form of elder abuse is financial elder abuse. So that's kind of the context. And maybe because I have worked in the area of domestic violence, child abuse, elder abuse for so many years, really since 1997, this is kind of my world, right? I kind of really see domestic violence, child abuse, elder abuse, sexual assault, like in our community, in our society. And I really see interpersonal violence as the root of so many problems, including health issues. I mean, not only public safety, certainly, a lot of law enforcement agencies have to deal with domestic violence calls or interpersonal violence calls, but I also know that interpersonal violence, domestic violence really causes poverty, homelessness, and also long-term health consequences. So to me, interpersonal violence really is the root of so many different problems in our community, in our society. I mean, that's, I think, what I really want to stress. I think, many of us know already, but just to understand that it is really pervasive, prevalent, and causes so many social ills. That's what I want to Now, here's the good news. The good news is that the Family Justice Center model works. and is considered the best practice by the U.S. Department of Justice. The Family Justice Center exists in 150 different locations around the world. There are about 25 family justice centers in the state of California. And the reason why there are so many family justice centers is because this model has proven to be effective and it's working. And it's working because it's very simple. What we try to do is we put the victim in the center. As I mentioned earlier, the victim doesn't have to travel to different offices and figure out different office hours and figure out different services or eligibility requirements. The victim just has to come to us, to our center, and we put the victim in the center and surround her with different services to get her out of crisis, to get her to safety. So in the center of this model that I am showing you is the crisis support services that are designed to get the victim to safety first. So we would help her with case management. We would connect her to safety net services, for instance, food, if that's what she needs, or public benefits, unemployment benefits, or any kind of assistance she could get. That would be the safety net services. Victim compensation program is available through our district attorney's office that would allow for victims to have financial relief related to the crime. We also have family law attorneys on site to provide family law assistance, including divorce and custody cases. I am a family law attorney by training. I've been doing family law for now, I guess, about 25 years. So I provide support to our lawyers who are providing family law assistance. We connect our victims also to domestic violence shelters or other type of emergency housing assistance. And we will certainly do safety planning with our client victim. And we also have law enforcement officers on site. So if anyone has questions about their police report, emergency protective orders, we could connect our victims to detectives and other law enforcement officers for assistance. We provide counseling services. We have mental health therapists who's on site to provide counseling. She's actually trilingual. She speaks Portuguese, Spanish, and English. We assist clients with restraining orders because restraining orders is a really important tool that victims have. We believe that they could get to long-term safety, independence, and self-sufficiency. How do we get there? You know, Aparna, I think you have long-term safety. Why? Because I think you have these 4 domains in your life have figured out. First, health, not just physical health, but mental health. Second, education and training. Third is wealth, and 4 is community. Because we believe that if you have all of those 4 domains figured out, then you are enjoying your independence and self-sufficiency. And we do this with and through our partners. We have 52 on-site partners among the 3 different locations. So the Contra Center has our partners that are in all 3 locations or some Contra specific organizations. So that's kind of how it works. Our East Center in Antioch is the newest one, and we have about 20 to 22 partners for the East Center. But among the 3 centers, we have 52 partners. So some are in only 1 location, some are in all 3 locations. So we have 8 law enforcement partners. That includes Richmond PD, Concord PD, Pittsburgh, Antioch, Brentwood, Oakley, who am I missing here? And also the district attorney's office sends their deputy DA to our center. We have county and city agencies. For instance, Employment and Human Services Department of our county sends their benefits specialists who could help people apply for different county benefits. And we have many community-based organizations that includes Stand for Families Free of Violence, which is our county's domestic violence advocacy organization. We have Community Violence Solutions, which is our county's sexual assault and human trafficking organization, and many others, including COPE, which is providing parenting support, and also we care for children that's providing mental health counseling services for children 6 and under. So really the idea is when we all work together as partners, we could get our clients to safety and long-term independence. And Aparna, I just want to briefly also address the needs of our immigrant survivors. In 2019, our 3 family justice centers served about 4,000 clients experiencing interpersonal violence. A majority of those cases involving domestic violence, I want to say between 60 and 70%, but we also helped a lot of people, about 10% experiencing sexual assault, about 6 to 7% elder abuse, so different types of violence. And about 50% of our clients are limited English speaking clients, mostly Spanish speakers, but we've also had Asian language speakers. So when we are dealing with any kind of public systems that are receiving federal funding, there is the federal law that requires those public agencies to provide language access. For instance, when you go to court for those police agencies, the police agencies also have to provide language access. And they should have the language line they could call to get an interpreter on the phone when they are dealing with a victim who doesn't speak English. Our immigrant survivors can remember is, or should consider, is to work with culturally specific organizations. So you may know about NARICA, which is a South Asian-based domestic violence advocacy agency that has been around for a long time. Aparna asked me to talk a little bit about like COVID-19 and how that's working out. So one thing I want to tell you right now is that all 3 centers are open. We are we are fully operational. We are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 via phone or Zoom calls. So our navigators are available to talk to anyone, answer any questions they have, and then connect them to different resources. So we are open, but because of shelter in place, we also want to reduce the number of people that we have at our centers. We are open because we are an essential business. We are life-saving essential business. Like a lot like, I guess, health centers or grocery stores or police stations, like we are open. But we try to provide as many services on the phone because we don't want to have too many people in our center at once because we want to also practice social distancing. So people that we would accept to come in, walk in right now in the COVID-19 time are people experiencing emergencies. So we had a client who was homeless not too long ago who came in because she had experienced sexual assault. And she was homeless, she didn't have a phone, so she had to walk in. So this is this. This is week 5 of shelter in place, right? So week 1, when governor just declared and our county leaders declared shelter in place, we contacted our clients because we wanted to let them know that we were here to support them. And that week 1, what we learned is that many of our clients with low wage jobs in restaurant business or hospitality business lost their jobs just that first week. And then we talked to some other clients that's week 2, week 3. What we have noticed is that a lot of our clients have lost their jobs or reduced their hours, and their family members have also lost their jobs. So what we have here is not just a public health crisis, but it's an economic crisis that is impacting so many of our clients. Another thing we noticed is that because we have a lot of clients who are undocumented, because Contra Costa County does have a lot of undocumented residents and workers, they are working in restaurants and doing landscaping and construction. They are undocumented immigrants who are working and contributing to our economy, but there's no safety net for them. They cannot apply for unemployment insurance. They cannot apply for Medi-Cal or any public benefits. They don't even get the stimulus checks. Hopefully many of you by now have had your stimulus checks deposited into your bank, but what we know is that undocumented immigrants are not eligible for those checks. APS, Adult Protective Services, like CPS, right, the kind of counterparts, APS receives and investigates elder abuse reports. APS reports have been down this last month. CPS reports have also been down this last month. Now, this does not mean that there are less elder abuse cases or less child abuse cases. Actually, this particular fact should concern us. What this means is that people are living in close quarters, living in their homes, not leaving their house, they are staying home. So there are less people who are interacting with our elders and our children, and there are less reports made. That's my final slide. If you have any questions, you could come visit us. Our website is updated, cocofamilyjustice.org, and you could see the 3 centers, West, Central, and East. And those 3 telephone numbers live Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We have a live person who's answering the phone anytime, Monday through Friday. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Susun. Interpersonal violence is not the easiest of subjects to talk about. This was a wealth of information that you provided. It's a rich resource for many communities to understand what is being done and what is available should there be a need. Unfortunately, there is a need. I just saw a tweet by the United Nations, and to sum it up, it said many children are at home at this time, and that has resulted in millions of them being at risk now more than ever before. That itself is a very sad situation. I have some questions that were submitted early on, so I am going to ask you those questions, Susun, if that's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go through a couple. I know you addressed about the immigration and the visas. Now, there was a question related to the visas. Is the process going to be different for US citizens versus non-US citizens, green card holders, and what about those on student visas? How are they going to get help, especially moving forward after the COVID-19 shelter in place is over?
Well, as I mentioned, if you are experiencing interpersonal violence, you could apply for U visa, which is available, provided that you have cooperated with law enforcement investigation and prosecution. So if you are here as a student, on a student visa or H-1B visa, and you are not married to, or you're a United States citizen or legal permanent resident, but if you are a crime victim, you could apply for U visa. And after you get the U visa, you could become a legal permanent resident. So that's one route.
So I'm assuming if you're saying a crime victim, they would have to have proper documentation, police records to show that this crime happened, and there has to be evidence that they should have with them?
Yes, so to qualify for U visa, you have to have a police officer, police agency, or the district attorney's office that would certify that yes, you are a victim of a violent crime, and 2, you did cooperate with their investigation and prosecution. So you need that certification document to qualify for U visa.
Okay. My next question is, now that elder abuse, that's one aspect that immigrant families haven't really brought to the forefront through their discussions, but there are cases of elder abuse going on. Moving forward, how will, so the question is, how will domestic violence victims and elder abuse victims be receiving help? Is it on first come, first serve basis, or is it everyone at all times? That process is unclear.
Okay, so let's start with domestic violence. In fact, both domestic violence and elder abuse are areas that we have expertise in, and we work with many partners in our community to address both domestic violence and elder abuse. So one way to get help is by calling one of our numbers, whether you are a domestic violence victim or elder abuse victim, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Okay. Outside those hours, I would suggest that you call 211. That's Contra Costa County's Information and Referrals Service number, because 211 is connected to our crisis lines. Now, STAND for Families Free of Violence is our county's crisis line. So they would have a crisis line staff for domestic violence. And as I mentioned, Community Violence Solutions has a crisis line for sexual assault and human trafficking victims. So those are also good places to start. So there are many different doors that you could go through to get the help you want. In terms of, I think you were saying like the process. So I could just speak of the Family Justice Center's process. So if you call us, you're gonna be talking to one of our navigators. So just think about the name navigator. What does that kind of bring up for you? So our navigators can help navigate through many, many different systems and services and resources. So the client experiencing domestic violence or elder abuse will speak to a navigator, and navigators want to help determine your needs for services and your plan and your goals. So then we will connect you to different providers, either for domestic violence or elder abuse. So that's kind of how we work. Normally, before COVID-19, our navigators prefer meeting in person, because we find that when you meet you in person, there's more human connectedness, and there's more trust and relationship building that happens. But right now, we are trying to do most of our navigation on the phone.
Okay. But they will get help if they are reaching out.
Oh, yes. And also, I have to note that most of our partners are also fully operational, again, on the phone. So we would definitely connect the victim with our advocate partners, and our advocate partners are also available to provide services on the phone.
Perfect. This is a question by an individual who wanted to see if there are opportunities to report child abuse if they're suspecting it. Given it's shelter in place, they're not sure, but if they feel something, would they go to their local law enforcement officer and report it, or should they be reporting to the Family Justice Center and have someone intervene?
No, I think that whenever there's any suspected child abuse, the best place to start is our county's CFS, Children and Family Services, also known as CPS, Child Protective Services. I should have that number. I could probably find it while we have this recording, because I think it's
that would be helpful. That would be a resource for some members who are looking for information. Now, the courts are closed at this time. So if somebody needs access to the court system or the lawyers, what would be an approach they should be taking?
That's a really good question, because this is one area that has been changing like so much, and like almost on a weekly basis, we are getting new information about what to do. And there's so much reading that I've had to do, and I can't even keep track of everything. But I'm going to tell you this: the Contra Costa courts are closed right now for most filings, most cases, and they're not going to really do jury trials for a long time. But good news for us, at least for domestic violence, elder abuse advocates, is that one can file for restraining order right now. That is allowed via email. That's really good news. So the court made the domestic violence restraining order and elder abuse restraining order possible last week. So just 10 days ago, they reopened that door to accept and grant domestic violence restraining order requests and elder abuse restraining order requests. So that's been great for our clients, victims of domestic violence and elder abuse. And we have been assisting clients seeking restraining orders.
So what is the processing time? Is it the same as it was before COVID-19, or is it taking a bit longer given there may be more people filing?
Well, right now, the number of filings has not really gone up significantly because not everyone knows that this reopened, right? So, we are trying to educate the public about that. The amount of time it should take is still about the same, 24 hours. So if I'm experiencing violence and I submit my domestic violence restraining order request via email, which is, by the way, big improvement. I don't have to drive to Martinez to drop it off. I could actually email it to the court. Then the court should process it within 24 hours. So that hasn't changed, because once the court approves my request, I should get the temporary restraining order, which is good until the date of the court hearing. And that gives me protection, right? The temporary restraining order gives me the protection that I need. So that processing time should not change. I would get a call from the court saying your temporary restraining order is ready for you to pick up. Then I would go to court to pick it up. And then I could bring it to the sheriff's office for service, or I could email serve it to the person who has harmed me. And then the hearing itself, before COVID-19, we would have the hearing within 25 days of the issuance of temporary restraining order. But now that's going to be changing. The court is going to have to, and that I haven't really figured out the actual timing of the hearing, but the hearing is going to happen virtually. So I don't have to go to court and, risk exposure. And the judges won't, also want to be safe, right? So everyone wants to be safe. So hearing is going to be done virtually.
Okay. Last question is again related to children. Who is, I think this is what they mean, who is keeping tabs? Who is looking out for the children at this time?
Yeah, that's a tough question. So let's just first give emergency response hotline, which is Contra Costa County's child abuse report hotline. They say that they annually receive over 20,000 calls, and the number is 1-877-881-1116. 877-881-1116. So that's really an important number to call, and that is 24/7 hotline, toll free, 877-881-1116. Yeah, that's a really good question, because you see, a lot of child abuse reports are made by teachers or the child care providers, because when they see their children act a little differently and with certain physical injuries, they are mandated reporters. They are trained to report suspected child abuse. But now children are not going to schools or not going to child care centers, right? So they are in their homes, and we know that anecdotally, there are more child abuse incidents that happen because people are all under stress, and some of our parents don't know how to cope with their stress and sometimes use violence against their children. So I would say that the best place to start is by contacting Child Abuse Hotline, the number that I gave you. And there is the trained social worker on the phone with you to receive your reports and then start the investigation. I think that's the best thing to do. And I would say it's also this: if you are not so sure and you just want to talk to someone, you could call us. Please call us, and we could walk through like the best way to intervene. I think right now, what we want to tell our teachers, educators, coaches, and trainers is that if they have Zoom meetings with their children, please just pay attention and just please ask them how they are doing. I would also say that if your student is not showing up for Zoom meetings when they're supposed to, please contact their parents, or just be a bit more proactive, because we know that our children are not going to schools, they are in their homes, so there could be child abuse going on. So just being a bit more protective, being more mindful, I think could be a helpful thing.
Well, this is wonderful information. I think we covered a lot in this one session. I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to explain how everything works. And we hope we get out of this shelter in place soon, so the people who are suffering in silence can get access to the resources in person. Thank you so much, Susun Kim. And I would also like to thank the two women who made the marketing possible in a short amount of time, Anne Reed and Tatiana Milter, who joined, and I'm sure they're listening to the whole thing. They're multitasking, but thank you, ladies, for getting all the information out. It's just impossible for me to do this if I didn't have these two people working behind the scenes. So thank you, ladies. Thank you, Susun, and I hope to see you in person in the near future. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay healthy and stay connected.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.